family to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Are authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime? With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
The Chancellor says the UK faces a tough road ahead despite better than expected news for the economy.
Good morning, it's 8 o'clock on Monday the 12th of December. This is Breakfast on GB News with Isabel, Webster and Martin Dormy. And here's what's leading the news this morning.
Figures confirm that this is a very challenging economic situation here and across the world, and it will get worse before it gets better.
So the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, there urging caution for Brits in the coming months, despite the British economy growing by 0.5% between September and October.
And 4 children have been taken to hospital in critical condition after falling through the ice on a lake in Solihull in the West Midlands. Police did not confirm how many children were involved in the incident, but it is believed that 2 more children are sadly missing.
Motorways have been shut after heavy snowfall caused treacherous conditions and crashes. The weather has also caused Stansted Airport to close, as well as disruption to the rail lines, and we understand the runway at Jersey Airport as well.
And King Charles has revealed his first Christmas card as monarch. The card shows the King and the Queen consorts at the Highland Games days before the death of Queen Elizabeth, and it's an absolute corker.
And sorry, I was just going to read you some weather emails. Lots of you getting in touch about the weather. Whilst you're talking about fog, please tell everyone to turn their lights on when driving, especially electric cars and cars while daylight running lights, as these only function on the front. Lights would be good for fog. Sorry, this doesn't make much sense. I don't know why it's been printed out, if I'm honest, but I think the message is put your fog lights on.
And on the nurses' strike we were talking about earlier, Helen says, I am a 70-year-old and my bills are paid. I eat out every day. I go to the pub once a week and I manage very well on £15,000 a year. So I don't believe that nurses are using food banks on £30,000 per year.
Controversial. Let us know your thoughts on any of the topics. GBViews at gbnews.uk. OK, we start with some breaking news this hour. Britain's economy grew by 0.5% between September and October in a rebound from a 0.6 contraction the previous month. This is according to the latest figures from the Office for National Statistics. However, in the last hour, the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, has been speaking and he has warned that tough times are still ahead for the UK. Let's have a listen.
Figures confirm that this is a very challenging economic situation here and across the world, and it will get worse before it gets better. But we have a plan that will more than halve inflation over the next year, and if we stay the course, we can get back to the strong economic growth that we need.
Well, joining us now for more on this is our political correspondent, Tom Harwood. Hello there, Tom. So, a little bit of good news, but he's basically saying don't get too excited. Things are sure to get much worse.
Yeah, there are a lot of complicated factors here in the last 3 months. Of course, it's been an unusual time for the country, not least a slowdown in economic activity in September, driven by the consequences of the death of a monarch. Of course, that bank holiday that we saw in September is estimated to have reduced economic activity by 0.3%, half of the reduction across the entire month. And of course, we're looking at this 3-month period in the round, the United Kingdom reducing its economic output by 0.3%. This looks like we are on course for getting on for 2 quarters of negative economic growth. So over the next 3 months, it's expected we'll see a similar contraction, and that will officially put this country into recession. Of course, there are other countries around the world who have already got to that point. The United States has been in recession for quite some time, and we're seeing similar levels of inflation in continental Europe. Ultimately, the entire Western world is facing a very, very tricky economic set of circumstances right now. The aftershocks of COVID, of course, but also that war in Ukraine pushing up prices, particularly in Western Europe, energy prices, and that's having so many different knock-on effects to the wider economy.
Interesting to note, Tom, that the Chancellor has decided to do this interview this morning. Obviously, the figures come out at 7, but it seems to be his modus operandi, doesn't it? To get out early, get his economic message out. We saw this pretty much as soon as he got in the job. Within 3 days, he'd sort of overturned everything, but he did it first thing on a Monday morning. I suppose this is all sort of a hangover from the trust times when the markets really reacted quite badly. He's very clear, isn't he, Tom? He wants to signal the mood and the position of the government in all of this.
He does. He wants to get out there before those markets make their big decisions. This is a government that really wants to emphasise how sort of steady they want to be, hand on the tiller, not making any big seismic changes. Now, in terms of economic confidence, that's a reasonable strategy. It means that there aren't going to be any big surprises, that the pound is relatively strong compared to recent history against the dollar, 123 this morning. And yet, it also means politically there are some challenges, because the Conservative Party sits 20 points behind the Labour Party in the polls. If it is going for this slowly, steady strategy, there isn't going to be that big impetus that may well change that polling position. Speaking to some people in number 10, it does seem that the strategy from this government is this year, steady the ship, make sure that there is no big sort of change in circumstances, but then potentially next year start to push forward a bit more of a reform agenda. Perhaps we may see some more Trussian elements of reform. Of course, on Friday we saw the Edinburgh reforms come in to liberalise our financial markets here in the United Kingdom, and there may well be more elements of that sort of supply-side reform coming about, but not right now. Clearly the emphasis of Rishi Sunak is stability, but there are those that are within his party pressuring him to think perhaps stability when the party is 20 points behind in the polls isn't going to be the wisest decision if that's all that this government is about. There are many people in the Conservative Party who are willing the Prime Minister to present some sort of positive vision looking to the future. And indeed, Lord Cruddas organised a letter of a number of MPs over the weekend that was talking about bringing down the tax burden. There's a lot of internal pressure within the Conservative Party to see more than just stability.
Tom Harwood, thank you for your time this morning, and I hope your croaky voice gets better, mate.
Need some honey and lemon.
OK, 2 children are still missing and 4 more remain in a critical condition after falling into an icy lake at Babs Mill Park near Solihull. All 4 are in hospital after suffering cardiac arrest.
Well, GB News' West Midlands reporter Jack Carson is there for us this morning. Jack, clearly a tragic situation there, and I know that already one police officer has had to be treated for hypothermia in responding to all of this. What's the latest?
Well, good morning. So yesterday at 2:36 p.m. is when the emergency services were called to this location after reports that children had fallen in the water. The first ambulance got here 7 minutes later, and a bit later on, critical care respondents. When the West Midlands Fire Service got here, a member of the police, like you mentioned, and members of the public were already in the water trying to rescue these 4 children that were in trouble in the lake just behind me. That police officer has been taken to hospital and is suffering with mild hypothermia. area, though the good news that we've got so far is that he is expected to make a full recovery. The 4 children that were recovered from the lake and rescued from the lake were given CPR here at the scene and were taken in the ambulance receiving a critical care on the way to 2 were taken to Birmingham Heartlands Hospital, 2 more to the Birmingham Children's Hospital, where they remain today and this morning in critical condition. We have had reports from local residents and witnesses that were here that there are, like you said, 2 other children that possibly may be involved in this incident, and they have currently not yet been found. The operation has continued into the night here to try and establish if those children were involved in this incident. Last night at a press conference, Richard Stanton, who's the West Midlands Fire and Rescue Service Area Commander, said that the specialist medical advice we've been given on the scene, given the temperature of the water and the age of those children that have entered, means that this would no longer be a search and rescue operation. One witness said that when they got here with their friend at 2:45, just after the incident, that two had gone into the lake and people were shouting at them that it wasn't safe. Those children then entered the lake to try and bring their friends back to the side of the lake when the ice cracked and the leg of one of the boys went in, and the 3 on the bank then went in to help them when they saw they were in trouble. That witness also claims that one 8-year-old boy has sadly passed away, but the West Midlands Ambulance Service have not yet commented on whether that is the case. One resident says that they understand all of the children are year 5 and 6 children at a local primary school here. So the operation has continued over the night. We've not got an update just yet this morning, but police, the West Midlands Fire Service, have just arrived on scene to have a meeting together and establish what the next steps are. But the operation has continued overnight, but no updates as of yet.
Oh gosh, Jack Carson, absolutely heartbreaking and tragic story. And thank you very much for that update. I know you'll keep us posted on any more tragic developments that he was reporting from. I'll just give you the name of the lake again. It was from the Babs Mill Park in Solihull in the West Midlands. Absolutely dreadful, especially this time of year.
And so often, isn't it the case, you always hear in these stories, one person gets into trouble, one child gets into trouble, and his mates go and help him.
Of course, and that's your instinct. Yeah, it's absolutely horrendous and a stark warning to us all, really, to stay well away from water. Look, let's get some more analysis on all of this from weather presenter and journalist Nathan Rao, a regular on the programme. Good morning again to you, Nathan.
Good morning.
So just on that point then, I mean, we had an email from a viewer earlier, didn't we, Martin, who said that he'd spent a lot of time in Finland, and unless you had several days, maybe even a week of minus 10 to 12, people in Finland wouldn't even contemplate stepping foot on the ice. We really don't have these sorts of conditions where you can trust the ice in this country.
No, you can't, and we're not used to it. What has happened is that these young kids have seen what looks like a skating rink or something, a frozen lake. They don't know how thin the ice is, and it's cracked, and with tragic consequences. Never walk on icy, frozen over lakes. Open water is always a hazard in any weather. In the summer, it's a hazard when people jump into open water because you can get out of your depth. In the winter, never step on frozen lakes because it's thin ice. We're not used to it.
So on the broader picture, we've just seen that Jersey Airport's just gone down. Heathrow, some are open, others aren't. Yeah. What's the extent of this nationwide, and how long is this snap and this chaos expected to last? Well,
today is the day when most of the country, according to the Met Office, is going to see the snow and the freezing fog and the ice, because we've got snow in Scotland, we've got snow in London. The major airports are all going to be affected by freezing fog and snow. This cold weather, this Arctic snap, is not going anywhere soon. It's going to hold out for the next week at least, and probably the week beyond that in the run-up to Christmas. The Met Office is predicting snow in the south today and then snow in the north of Scotland through the rest of the week. However, it's changing by the day, and we could well get snow sporadically around the country as this cold snap goes on. So expect delays. As we're seeing today, when this sort of thing happens, we can't cope. Things crumble. The airports are having problems. The railways are having problems. Everywhere's having problems.
Yeah, although in credit to Jersey Airport, the latest there is after a short closure, it has managed to reopen the runway at Jersey Airport. And they have this amazing spray. I was at Bristol Airport one Christmas when all of it was closed down. And they spray the windows, they spray the windscreen, they spray the runway. It's antifreeze. But there are plans in place. But we've been talking a lot this morning about why it is that when this happens, we seem to be completely unprepared for it.
Yeah. I mean, we do have plans in place to do things things like that. But unlike the Scandinavian countries, the countries further north that have this sort of weather that lasts for a long, long, long time, they have the infrastructure in place. They have the investment to make sure that their transport networks can cope with it and cope with it seamlessly for months on end. We get snaps like this. I mean, this will last a week, a couple of weeks, and then we'll probably be over it. So we do, when we get extreme weather, even in the summer when we get the extreme heat, the trains have trouble, the roads start melting.
Well, I mean, they're saying on the front page of the papers today, get ready for a virtual Christmas because the trains are about to shut down.
Yeah.
And we can't get around that. Of course, in those situations, people turn to their cars. What are the... I suspect I know the answer.
Yeah.
What are the real nightmare days to try and avoid the motorways travelling if you can on the run-up to Christmas?
In the week up to Christmas, in Christmas Eve and in New Year, those are always the busiest times. In fact, that whole Christmas week is busy. The thing at the moment is because the last few years it's been quite mild and we haven't had snow in the run-up to Christmas. This is all a bit of a surprise to us at the moment. So the key is to be prepared. If you are going to take these journeys, I mean, it's busy now. People are moving around for Christmas now. The schools are broken up. If you are going to take these journeys, be prepared for the possibility that if we get a cold snap like this that can set in just like that. I mean, a few hours ago, there was no snow in London, and I woke up this morning to inches of snow. You can get stuck in your car for hours. Be prepared. Blankets, hot drinks, medications if you need it, because you could be in there overnight.
Phone chargers. That's
phone
always
chargers.
A good one.
Yeah, phone chargers.
I've actually just seen the latest figures for temperatures last night. Apparently it was the coldest night of the year last night, and it was minus 15.6 in Braemar in Scotland. My brother lives very close to that. Is seriously cold.
That is seriously cold. We've got to beat minus 23, the record. Maybe,
right.
I don't know, maybe, but that, yes.
When was minus 23? A few years ago?
A few years ago, yeah. No, we've not had it. I mean,
coldest night of the year, but it could happen this week.
Maybe it could. Maybe in a isolated spot. I think that is quite low.
OK.
But this is certainly, at this time of year, the coldest snap we've had for a good few years, about 10 years. Last time was 2010 when we had a proper widespread white Christmas. And there have only been 4 in the last 50 years.
And we've had the beach from the east. This is coming from Scandinavia this time, isn't it?
Coming from the
Piling
north.
Down from up north.
Yeah. I mean, this is causing meteorologists a headache because there are high-pressure systems and low-pressure systems all tussling with each other from the east and the west and moving around, bringing air in from the east and then from the north. And when low pressure comes in from the south, that brings in moist air against cold air, and that causes snow. And it literally is a day-to-day of watching it changing. And today, we sort of, they put out the warnings a couple of days ago, but who would have thought we'd have had snow in London, inches thick?
Yeah. OK, Nathan Rout, thank you for that overview. We appreciate it. See you again.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's bring you up to date on all of today's top stories now.
Britain's economy grew by 0.5% between September and October, according to the Office for National Statistics. The figure marks a rebound from a 0.6 contraction the previous month, but the economy has still shrunk overall in the last 3 months. And the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, warning this morning that there is still a tough road ahead.
And the International Trade Secretary will arrive in India today as the UK strives to restore a free trade deal. Kemi Badenoch will meet Indian ministers and business leaders in New Delhi for the first formal round of talks since July. Negotiations are expected to focus on cutting tariffs and opportunities for UK financial and legal services.
And the King and Queen Consort have revealed this year's lovely Christmas card. The picture was taken just days before the death of Queen Elizabeth II. It is the royal couple's first Christmas card since Charles became monarch.
Well, I've just been talking about that Christmas card. I think it's wonderful, it's heartwarming, and a real development of getting the Queen Consort back in the centre of the public eye.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Theirs is certainly a story, an enduring love story, isn't it? And you can see that love in the eyes of the Queen Consort there. But look, don't take my opinion in all of this. Let's speak to the Daily Mail's Robert Hardman, and author of Queen of Our Times, a biography of Elizabeth II, which I have, no less, Robert, and very much enjoyed.
Thank you.
In fact, the last time I saw you, you had said to me, you must get to the Mall for Platinum Jubilee because it will be the last time we see her going up the Mall. And sure enough, you were right. I was there, and it was the last time we saw her. But this picture taken just days before her death. What did you make of the Christmas card?
I think it's absolutely charming. It's the obviously it was the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall as we knew them then, but they're up at Braemar at the Highland Gathering, which is one of Prince Charles's now King's favourite events. He's actually patron of the Highland Games Association, and they're just having a lovely time. This is one of the great fixtures in the royal summer season towards in early September when they go to the local Highland Games. It's something that the Queen always loved herself. She actually now and then would use that. There would be a picture of her at the same event on her Christmas card. And it's just one of those sort of rituals that comes around. And I think it's very important to sort of showing the sort of continuity. I mean, everybody sends, Christmas cards and what have you, but there's always that focus on the monarch's Christmas card. And obviously it's there first. So I think tonally it's very upbeat.
And there was always a kind of worry, wasn't there, about how the public would take to the Queen Consort coming to the fore like this. But that actually has been a remarkably painless transition. She's very, very welcomed into the fold. This card, I think, will further cement that.
Yeah, I mean, she's a great asset. Everyone around the royal household, around in the sort of royal orbit, they're all very fond of her because she's a sort of happy, cheerful, upbeat person. If you're on a royal tour, mate, and these things don't always go according to plan, you can normally rely on the Queen Consort to sort of see the funny side of things. And yeah, I mean, it was February of this year on Accession Day that the Queen, the late Queen, made it very clear that she called it her sincere wish that the Duchess of Cornwall should, in due course, become Queen Consort. She has, and I mean, who's going to gainsay the Queen?
It's been very interesting in the last few weeks seeing the sort of pictures that are being released officially from now the Waleses and indeed from the King, this loving picture between the couple of the Queen Consort and King Charles, and similar stuff coming out of the Earth shot between the Prince and Princess of Wales. How much do you think this is in... not necessarily direct reaction to the Netflix series, but just a hint to show, we are people too, we are humans, in a way that, kind of counters the narrative that's coming from the States?
I don't think that everything that sort of happens at the palace is done with sort of thinking, wonder what's happening next in Montecito. I mean, it clearly it might look like that, but they're just sort of getting on with what they do. I mean, this is royal life. This is the sort of day-to-day royal existence, if you like, which is sort of underlining and championing causes that may not be particularly fashionable, they may not capture all the headlines all of the time, but you just steadily, that's what you do, that's what people expect.
Prince William has announced that he will reportedly never watch the series. He's a man after my own heart. I've got about as much interest in that as yeah.
Watching paint dry.
Yeah, watching paint dry. But do you think that would be the typical response? Just ignore it, it'll go away, dignified silence, business as usual, or could there be a next play? Could there be more of an open warfare?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I don't think this. I mean, I don't think the Prince of Wales, Prince William, has actually announced anything. I mean, the official line is, we're not commenting on it. They don't want to get into a sort of running commentary. I mean, those close to him say he's not going to watch it. I'm quite sure he won't. Same way family don't watch The Crown. It's something that once you start looking at things like that, if you do get drawn into talking about it, it has a sort of, it just perpetuates the whole story. I mean, I think, obviously, we've got another 3 episodes of this thing coming out on Thursday. And we'll have to see what sort of truth bombs, as they're called, the Sussexes decide to lob into the royal pond. And then beyond that, next month, of course, we've got Harry's biography, Spare, coming out. So there are a number of, shall we say, potential trouble spots ahead. And I think, what we've seen in recent years is the monarchy is very swift to respond if it feels that a response is appropriate. If it feels a response isn't appropriate, just expect business as usual and radio silence.
But Robert, I mean, you say that the royals won't be watching it. They'll have people that will have watched it for them just to check if there was anything they needed to respond to. And so far, I suppose the assessment is a few implied digs here and there, but frankly, nothing to worry about. So there will be, presumably, relief from on high about all of that, and perhaps a sign that things aren't as bad as they could be in the fact that the Sussexes and the Waleses are still swapping Christmas presents between children this Christmas.
Yeah, we understand that's the case. I think they will be very keen to kind of keep relations between the young cousins. I mean, they're not involved in any of these spats, and they've got a future ahead. So, I think the direction of travel, such as we saw it in recent months, both at the time of the Jubilee and at the time of the Queen's funeral, is not towards a sort of rapprochement, but things were sort of seemingly starting to thaw a little bit between California and the palace. And, if that continues, And as I said, it's contingent on what we see on Thursday when the next 3 episodes of the documentary, what would one call it, self-portrait, come out.
Reality TV.
Reality TV
The only
show.
way is Sussex, as it's being dubbed.
Narcissistic drivel.
Opinions may vary. So as I said, you've got that, you've got the book coming out. But certainly we saw at the time of the Jubilee when the couple came over for that, and then there was that sort of walkabout at Windsor in the days after the Queen's death. So you were sort of seeing little glimmers of light that maybe things are heading towards a sort of an accommodation, if you like. So let's hope so.
And look, Thursday, as you say, the latest in this plot twist, but there's also the day of Catherine's carol service, and all the senior royals will be there for that. She's been, pictures of her have been published over the weekend, looking lovely and festive as well. Lots of promoting of her role, I think, as Princess of Wales in recent months, I think.
Yeah, it's everybody is if you like adjusting to the sort of the new reign, and for the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate, as they always used to be known, Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, it's they are as sort of central to this story as the King and the Queen Consort. I mean, they've got a very important global role. I mean, we saw them in the USA the other day, and I think this service at Westminster Abbey on Thursday, that's it's a relatively new addition to the royal calendar. This event.
Do you think Catherine will be playing the piano? Lots of people expect that now.
Well,
including me.
Once, as a not very good pianist myself, I can imagine the stress of, it's bad enough having to sort of walk out in Westminster Abbey in front of 2,000 people on live TV.
She pre-recorded it last time, didn't she? Very cleverly.
I think that would be the way to do it.
OK, fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Robert Hardman. Always a pleasure to have you in. Thank you very much for stopping in. Breakfast.
Thanks.
Well, after the break, a 13-year-old is in remission from leukemia after being given a world-first experimental treatment. We'll find out what the development means for the future of the fight against cancer.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8". My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Welcome back. Still to come on the programme this morning at 8:45. If you still haven't done your Christmas shopping, stay tuned. The comedian and TV presenter Timmy Mallet, remember him? Yeah. He's going to be here to tell us which presents nobody wants to receive. You don't want to be doing that, giving the presents no one wants, do you?
Remember old Timmy time. And at 9:15, chef James Martin will give us his tips on the perfect roast potatoes. Essential. Mine are pretty good.
Christmas is just about roast potatoes, as far as I'm concerned.
And looking at other unusual ways to prepare the humble and much underrated spud.
Yeah, can't live without a potato. Join in any of our discussions. Email us gbviews@gbnews.uk. We also want your snow stories this morning. Lots of reports of problems getting out and about on the roads, on the rail, and even on the planes as well. So keep in touch with those stories.
A 13-year-old is in remission from leukemia with help from a revolutionary new treatment. Alyssa was diagnosed in 2021 and doctors were unable to prevent the disease from returning despite conventional treatments.
Yeah, this is really interesting. In May, Alyssa was given the revolutionary T-cell treatment as part of a clinical trial, and 28 days later, she was in remission and is said to be doing well.
Astonishing story. So what does this mean for the future of the fight against cancer? Well, with us this morning to discuss is the director of Bart's Cancer Centre, Professor Tom Poles. Good morning to you, sir. So tell us about this treatment. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but what in essence is behind this treatment?
So I think it's a fair description that it is certainly out of a sci-fi movie from the recent past. Historically, cancer treatments, we've used things like chemotherapy, which essentially come from often things like plants where we know they're toxic to the body and they kill all the cells in the body to some extent, but cancer cells turn over more quickly than most cells. So under those circumstances, chemotherapy is really not very specific at all, and it just targets the cancer because it happens to be growing faster than normal cells. And that's what we've been doing for really a long, long period of time. And over the last 10 or 15 years, that's changed to what we now describe as more like personalized therapy, where we've tried to identify targets that we can actually try and target cancer cells rather than just using a carpet bombing approach. In leukemias, which are immune-related cells, T cells and B cells, one of the ways of targeting those T cells is via this approach. Chimeric antigen receptor T cells, CAR T cells, are ways in which we alter the immune cells. So we alter immune cells essentially to fight each other. So we have immune cells that we've altered, which are able to fight the cancerous immune cells. And the unique thing about this work, which I think is incredibly exciting, is actually this is a cancer where they've found a very sophisticated way of getting these two immune populations to fight each other in your body. And actually, the cancer cells that we alter, we change their base pairs, and that's why that's why the name is given. When we change the DNA of the T cells fighting the cancer cells, we can make that balance favour the cells that we've altered. So it is an incredibly exciting and very sophisticated treatment.
Wow.
Yeah, so its name is base editing, and as you described, very sophisticated and exciting, and that's something we can all kind of understand from that brilliant description of it. The thing about chemotherapy, as you describe, is people get very unwell when they're undergoing that treatment because, as you say, it affects so much of the other parts of their body. People famously very, very sick when going through chemotherapy. What was Alyssa's experience of base editing? Did she feel well during the treatment?
So I didn't look after Alicia, but I'm involved in cellular therapies and these types of therapies. I work at St Bartholomew's, not Great Ormond Street. So these cellular therapies do have side effects.
Okay.
Because we are altering the immune system, inevitably we can get immune-related side effects. So you can feel like you've got flu when you're getting immune-based therapy. And sometimes if the treatment is altered in, and some of the treatments that we use outside of this, we can reintroduce immune-related diseases, and things like diabetes is an immune-related disease. You can get pneumonitis, you can get shortness of breath. So yes, you can get side effects from these treatments. The other really important side effect is that if your target that you alter is absolutely unique to the cancer, that's fine. But often your target may not be exclusively expressed on the cancer. It could be expressed on the skin as well, in which case you would get skin toxicity also. Now, this is a wider discussion and probably occurs less in leukemias because this is very specific to T cells. But as we move this treatment into wider areas, the exclusivity of the targeting is going to be really, really important.
It just sounds astonishing, and this just makes me marvel at human ingenuity. And just to be absolutely clear, you talk about side effects, but this 13-year-old girl is completely free of leukemia, right?
Yeah, and we hope that continues in the future. There is we haven't yet seen the long-term outcome of some of these CAR T-cell therapies, and it would be premature at this point to say this is a cure for treatment-refractory T-cell leukemia because it's only a relatively short period of follow-up. But the one thing that's different about immune therapies compared to chemotherapies in the past is if we re-educate our immune system to fight the cancer, we may be able to generate memory. And you might remember, like vaccines, when we're reintroduced by the same problem in the future, if that memory exists, your body can learn to fight the cancer. And indeed, the development of cancers originally is not just about abnormal cells arriving, mutations occurring and growing. There is a really key important balance between the immune system and the person about how the immune system can eliminate that cancer initially. So we've probably underplayed the role of the immune system in the development and treatment of cancer. And now, only now, with these ways, sophisticated treatments where we can alter the DNA to fight cancer.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, look, we all became sort of armchair experts, didn't we, in T-cell memory during all of the developments of the vaccine. So interesting to see it at play in cancer treatment. Professor Tom Powles, fascinating to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for explaining, and so lovely to see Alicia's smiling face there. We wish her all the very best. Professor Powles there, Director of Bart's Cancer Centre.
I just find those sorts of stories just life-affirming.
Oh, absolutely. What we can do is absolutely fantastic. There she is, one more smile for her.
You know, it's a miracle at Christmas. I just find it especially moving that children's lives are saved like this. It's just astonishing.
Lovely, lovely smiling face.
Capable of.
Yeah, we'll try and catch up with her at some point, perhaps, on the programme. That'd be absolutely amazing. We're going to take a break. After that, we're back with the equally cheerful and positive Claire Pearsall and Chris Akabusi to take us through the papers one last time.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236 and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, this one's going to be juicy, I can sense it already. It's time to go through the papers now with Chris Akabusi, Olympic legend, and Claire Purcell. Right, let's start with you, Chris. We've been talking about this a lot this morning, this phrase that's making my blood boil. We're going to have a virtual Christmas this year.
Yeah, and, well, apparently, and the Mr Harper, who's Mr Harper? Anyway.
He's the Transport Secretary.
Thank you very much,
no
sir.
less.
Thank you very much. Sorry, sir.
That one.
He's worried about there have been disruptions with the RMT, etc., and the 4 days happening this week and 4 days threatened between the 24th and 27th of December, that as opposed to the last couple of years where we've had a virtual Christmas because of lockdowns and pandemics, this time it's going to be because of the rail unions. And he's saying, you know, and we think about today, people can't go on the rail, they can't go on the roads, and so you've got to worry about your plans, and people are going to decide to, let's just open up the computer, hi mum, hi granddad, hope you have a happy Christmas, and everyone eating Christmas by the road.
We've got to say no to that.
Care.
No, well, he'll like it that we're all frozen, but they can virtually clear off. No way. Like 2 years we've had to sit around twiddling our thumbs, doing Christmas on Zoom. No more.
Well, for me, and with all the paraphernalia of Christmas, for me, I love my family coming to my house. You know, and I've got two families, and my wife, ex-wife, and my ex-partner, and our children and our grandchildren, and my son-in-law Tom and I, we get stuck in and we prepare the dinner, and it's just great. You see like a table of 15 people getting stuck into the turkey. You see the Christmas carols, you're singing around a tree, the grandkids ripping stuff off, and I just absolutely...
You're getting excited already there, Chris.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Any church in there, Chris? I know you...
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Definitely. I'm singing the old carols and stuff, and they all laugh at the old man because my best one is "Good King with this lots of cows." I do all this activity, and even I've got a little grandson. He's only barely a year, and he looks at the granddad doing his dodgy business, and he's now we absolutely, we've got baby Jesus in the manger. We've got all of that stuff going because I'm born and bred United Kingdom, Christian heritage. Quite clearly, Christmas is important to me and my family. And my ex-wife, she's German, so she brings in the Stille Nacht, Ruhige Nacht, and all that sort of stuff.
Lovely.
Oh, it's absolutely tremendous.
Well, you know what? It leads me perfectly on then to the next story, Claire, inside the Daily Mail, where the civil service has been given a guide to a woke Christmas party where there's no mention of Christmas.
And complete opposite to the Akabusi household. These are festive celebrations, and government officials have been told to avoid venues that serve alcohol for fear of offending somebody else. Now, my husband doesn't drink at all, but he wouldn't ever stop anybody else from doing it. And any party that he goes to, he sticks to a soft drink. It's not, it's not relevant to him. He isn't offended by other people drinking. And I think that this is now taking it far too far. Christmas is a holiday in the United Kingdom. Let's all celebrate.
I'll tell you something else. This isn't just the civil service. I knock around with teachers. I drink with teachers. Especially this time of year, they do like it. And they're telling me that they're getting told off for whistling Christmas carols in a school in case it offends children of other faiths. So actually, we can joke about this, but I think it is the thin end of the wedge. That this is getting a bit out of control.
It is, and we're a Christian minority country now. We're not the majority Christian country we once were.
Well, I think we should be allowed to celebrate the faith that you hold. Whether you hold it or not, you're not going to offend someone else.
Yes.
I have many Muslim friends who are not offended by the fact that I celebrate Christmas. I wish them a Merry Christmas. They may not celebrate it themselves.
My Muslim friends
but they're
celebrate
quite
it
happy.
themselves, yes.
Absolutely. They are not offended by it. So I think this is something that is drawn up by civil servants, for civil servants, and the rest of us are now going to have to follow suit. So let's all have a bit of a rebellion and get it back for what it should be.
Let's have a bit more Chris Akabusi attitude. Civil service attitude. I think we'll all be happy with that. So, Chris, we're going to move swiftly on now to somebody else who might want to repent at Christmas. Harry Kane.
So, again, I saw the clip because actually it was celebrating my son's 15th birthday, so I didn't actually see the missed goal at the time, the missed penalty. So Harry said he's taking it on the chin, basically, and saying it's my bad. And he's saying that there's no hiding place from it, it hurts, and it'll take some time to get over it. Harry Kane will never get over it.
No.
Winning is a habit and losing is a habit. And at the crucial moment where he needed fear or faith, fear took over. And there's a great video of him missing the penalty, his head goes down, and then Jude Bellingham comes across and puts his arm on his shoulder, and you can see Jude at 19 is trying to encourage the captain, fantastic. But if you watch Harry's eyes, you can see the 1,000 thoughts going around him. Did that really, really happen? You can see him praying for an opportunity to put it right. You can see and this is going to haunt him for the rest of his life. However stellar his career goes on to be, this could be his last World Cup, and this will be with him forever. So, in a way, I know it's a lovely piece for the press. My bad, I take it on the chin, but this will be with him forever because that'll be his final moment.
And how, Chris, as an elite athlete yourself, how do you build back from these crushing?
Chris wouldn't know. Nothing but a win.
Well, the challenge, you see, I think so. Winning is a habit, and unfortunately, where he's got to the highest echelon. And he's got used to losing. I'm really sorry. Tottenham are flattered to deceive as a team, and now
Paul Coyte's not here.
Soz Paul, and so Harry is part of that generation who has experienced too many losses. Now, I'd hope people like Bellingham, Sacco, Declan Rice, they've experienced England on the up. And I'm hoping that they will get to win something so that winning becomes the mentality. So that when, because look, you look at France, who were outplayed in the second half, but France have learned how to win over the last 20 years. And so when they go into there, it's all going a little bit awry. They still know they can get it across the line. Whereas I'm afraid with England, we know that we've got more chances of losing than we have of winning. That's probably, but my point really being, though, my bad, it's easy said, it's hard to do. He will live with this for the rest of his life.
Yeah, so will we. Claire, can we talk about these 40 Conservative MPs who are putting pressure on the PM and the Chancellor over their economic strategy? They're concerned that the tax burden is too high. And you've got to bear all of this in mind when we're having these discussions about what the unions are demanding as well, haven't we?
Absolutely. This is a group, the Conservative Way Forward, which is a Thatcherite grouping, and it includes people like Jake Berry, Ian Duncan Smith, David Davis, who are natural Truss supporters and who did back her and thought that her budget was going to work. So you can understand that you have these two schools at the moment who disagree vehemently with anything Rishi Sunak does. You have this group of people who I do think have a point. We do have the highest tax burden since Second World War, and that you can't see how the country can sustain it. Now, the Prime Minister is setting himself up for a real battle, because if he ignores these people, there are some very, very big voices. His majority is slim. We've lost some MPs into being an independent through very different means. So your majority is going down. You start to get 40 people writing a letter and you can see that that's going to slide away. They do have some valid concerns, but I am a little bit cautious about dropping taxes too far, too fast, because that's what Liz Truss tried to do. It didn't work. Everybody got frightened. I think that there is a piece of work to be done at reducing things on a perhaps slightly slower level. So Trussonomics, but, dialed down 2 or 3 notches might work. But these are really serious people coming out with some suggestions that the Prime Minister does need to listen to.
OK, Claire Purcell, Chris Akabusi, thank you very much for coming in today. You piled through a winter landscape to get here. Thank you. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Right, it's official. Men do hate getting socks for Christmas. You beg to differ.
I love
Not
getting
all
socks.
men, though, but I always get my dad's socks. Sorry, Dad, you're getting socks again this year. But almost a third admitted that they feel disappointed, even if it is a joke present.
Well, I like socks as a present, so long as they're posh.
Yeah,
socks.
right, expensive socks.
Of course,
Go on,
I was saying to Claire, waterproof socks. Brilliant for golfers, and Claire is equine. So waterproof socks, they are brilliant. So in your galoshes, you've got your feet remain toasty and warm. So if you're going to give some socks, give them some waterproof socks. They will love it.
I've never met a man more excited about socks at Christmas. Which completely blows this survey out of the water. Let's get back to that. A new survey has found that humorous presents followed by ornaments and toiletries are the most unwelcome gifts this Christmas. I can empathise with that.
But with purse strings tighter than ever this year, what gifts should we be buying our loved ones this Christmas that will be gratefully received? Our next guest has done all the research for us, so we don't have to. Timmy Mallet joins us, children's presenter. Welcome to the programme, Tilly. Gosh, give us the do's and don'ts. Look at you, haven't changed a bit.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm so looking forward to Christmas. This is great, because Christmas is about giving and receiving, and the things that we look forward to at Christmas are actually presents that we're going to use time and time again. What I don't want to do is to open things up on Christmas morning and go, that's nice. OK, I'll take it down to the charity shop and get rid of it because I don't really want it. I've been a curious chap. I like going off and exploring. And this year I went for a bit of a bike ride. I set off in March and I said ta-ta to my family as I set off around the coast of Britain doing a circumnavigation of the entire 5,000 miles. I took with me my paints and a couple of maps, because actually you need to know the way to go. My friends at Ordnance Survey said, hey, try these, Timmy. Here we go. We'll print out your route on a map like this so that you will never get lost. And what that happens is each morning I'd look at it and think, oh, there's a little detour I could do there, go off and explore a bit. And I find myself thinking maps are a really good way at leading us to find stuff that we didn't know before. You can get these now on an app. I mean, look, this is brilliant. Have it all on your phone and you go, yeah, ooh, Oh, so I've been saying to Mrs. Mallet when she said, "What would you like for Christmas?" I said, "Well, I'd like to go on a bit of an explore, actually." So she said, "Oh, well, how about between Christmas and New Year, a couple of days away, something like that, and go off to somewhere new?" Ooh, where? I'll surprise you. And I like that feeling of a surprise. And I like that idea of a map of somewhere new to go to, and it's like, this is the thing to try. So, where would be your favourite place that you would go to, Isabel Martin?
Oh, question for us, Martin. He's asking us a question.
We're going to say, Tim, that a fascinating divergence into the world of maps. But getting back on track for Christmas presents, what's the weirdest Christmas present you've ever had, and what's the least wanted present you've ever had?
Got to be a mallet.
I always need a mallet. A mallet's always going to be useful. A pair of glasses. What do you think of those?
Oh, I love them.
Or a buff to wear on your head to keep you warm in the winter
Show
weather.
us your socks.
Socks are fine if they're colourful and they're funny. That's okay. But a grey pair of socks, no, I'd never wear them in a squillion years. I think it's about being imaginative and inspiring those we love with some good ideas of things to go and try. One of the things I was doing on my adventure was painting. So painting my way around the coast of Britain, following in the tyre tracks, if you like, of artists like Turner. I mean, he went off and painted the Welsh castles. So, OK, what were his views? And I took my paints with me.
Here's what I made earlier.
Wow, it's not bad, It's not bad.
It's not bad, it's brilliant. Where would that be, Isabel?
That would be somewhere in Wales.
Carmarthen Castle? Carmarthen Castle.
This is Harlech Castle, and he stood on a rocky park overlooking the town, and that's exactly where I stood to paint this. But you see, I wouldn't have known where that was without a little bit of exploring, a little bit of investigation, and that's the whole point of getting out and exploring. It's good for your mental health. It's good for feeling like you're in touch with the world, and I love that. That's my feeling. That's what I'm going to do for Christmas and New Year.
Lots of inspiration there from Timmy Mallet. Thank you very much for sharing some of your best and worst Christmas presents. We appreciate it. What's been your worst ever Christmas present?
I like all sorts of presents.
You're an easy.
I'm still none the wiser that had anything to do with Christmas.
Never mind. I've got given some 3D glasses that when you put them on and look at the Christmas tree, you then see lots of little Christmas trees where the lights are twinkling. Yeah. I mean, it was quite a cool present. It was also quite random.
I do like socks, posh socks, designer socks.
Noted. I know what to get you this year.
I like socks, but I don't want to be spending loads of money on them. So if you buy me a posh sock,
Yes, a bit of luxury for a man that they'd never really want to do for themselves, but they'll never say no to some fancy...
Yeah, like a shaving cream that you'd normally spend £4 on. Get me a 12 one. Ooh, that's a bit of luxury.
I hope your kids are watching. Look, let us know your best and worst Christmas presents this morning. We're also asking for lots of you to send us your snow stories this morning. Katie was in touch earlier. She said around 4 o'clock yesterday, I left Tenterden, Kent, and then the snow started. It was the journey from hell. Honestly, thought I was not getting home. The thing was, I've been doing a Christmas fair and the man who runs it did not want us to leave. And so the shame on him, because if I'd left earlier, I wouldn't have had such a traumatic time. And that's the truth. You've got to leave early before it gets dark when the weather's crazy like this.
Sue here has a radical solution. Why don't the airports invest in underfloor heating? Grit and some manual labour. It is all down to cost. Is it cheaper to pay for a few hundred missed flights than invest in the infrastructure? Common sense being from Sue. Get her in charge.
Yeah, keep those thoughts coming in on the weather and all of the top stories. We're going to take a break. After that, we'll be back with the latest on those GDP figures out this morning.
Hello there, it's Eamonn Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
The Chancellor says the UK faces a tough road ahead despite better than expected news for the economy.
Good morning, it's 9 o'clock, it's Monday the 12th of December. This is Breakfast on GB News with Isabel, Webster and Martin Daubney.
And here's what's leading the news this morning.
Well, these figures confirm that this is a very challenging economic situation here and across the world, and it will get worse before it gets better.
That was the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, urging caution for Brits in the coming months, despite the British economy growing by 0.5% between September and October.
4 children have been taken to hospital in critical condition after falling through the ice on a lake in Solihull in the West Midlands. Police did not confirm how many children were involved in the incident, but it is believed that 2 more children are currently missing.
The UK is facing travel chaos this morning after heavy snowfall last night, and road, rail and air traffic problems are also being experienced. Motorways have been closed across the West Midlands and the South West due to the conditions.
And King Charles has revealed his first Christmas card as monarch. The card shows the King and the Queen consort at the Highland Games days before the death of Queen Elizabeth. And it's beautiful.
Lovely picture. Do get in touch this morning with any of the topics that we've been covering this morning. You know the usual ways to do that. Just getting a load of emails coming in, people's favourite and worst Christmas presents. Keep them coming in. We love to see them. So some breaking news this morning. Britain's economy grew by 0.5% between September and October. That was in a rebound from a 0.6 contraction the previous month, and this is according to the latest ONS statistics.
However, Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has warned that these tough times are still ahead for the UK.
These figures confirm that this is a very challenging economic situation here and across the world, and it will get worse before it gets better. But we have a plan that will more than halve inflation over the next year, and if we stay the course, we can get back to the strong economic growth that we need.
Well, joining us now for more on this is the Chief Economic Advisor, Centre for Economics and Business Research, Vicky Price. Good morning to you. He managed to avoid the R word there. The Bank of England and the OBR have already gone there. I wonder whether or not these GDP figures have staved that R word off for a little while, at least from the Chancellor's perspective.
Well, possibly, but it's interesting when you look at the October data, an increase of 0.5%, really good news from the previous month when we had seen a drop in September of 0.6%. Well, what it means really is that some of the drop that we saw the previous month because of the extra bank holiday we had because of the Queen's death, that has been reversed, so that's good news because there was a concern that normally happens, by the way, when you have bank holidays and people perhaps spend on various things, but overall production stops in various places because people take the day off, so manufacturing suffers. You get that recovering that happens in the month after. There was a bit of a worry that it wouldn't happen this time because, of course, things are slowing down anyway and because of the cost of living crisis, but it did, which is good news. Plus, we've had construction, which was doing rather well, has been growing, actually. A lot of house building activity taking place through the summer, and that's been carrying on. So that's good news as well. The real question is what happens from here on. We have some data for November. What we have is the latest PMIs. Those are the Purchasing Managers Indexes, which tell you what is happening on the ground, if you like, in manufacturing, services and in construction. And they all show a further decline, including in construction, where we practically now stopped growing there as well. So that's a bit of an issue. So yes, our word recession may well be with us because the way you calculate a technical recession is if you have 2 quarters of negative growth. So we may still have that. And of course, now we have the strikes, which mean that the December figures are not going to be very good either.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot in the studio this morning because, of course, December is always a time when hospitality, when retail looks forward to having a bumper season. We're being told today, front page of the Telegraph, to expect a virtual Christmas. Don't travel, don't see your family. All of this doesn't bode well at all well for the economy, does it?
No, and there was also a suggestion that you should be charging people who come and have Christmas with you. So I think that's perhaps going a bit too far, but perhaps it's been happening all along. I mean, people bring their own bottles of wine or whatever. But yes, it is a bit of an issue. And of course, we also have transport difficulties today. And those strikes are going to be, in transport in particular, rail strikes are going to be quite dramatic in terms of what it means for people being able to move around. That in itself, of course, may mean that there are days when there is a lot of activity taking place, people stocking up. So you don't actually know exactly how it will sort of pan out through the month, but nevertheless, it's likely to be pretty bad. And hospitality is already screaming. Of course, the sector is saying that they're going to be very seriously affected. There are some estimates that they could lose, over £1 billion over the Christmas period, less than, in other words, they will collect less than would otherwise be the case. So that's a serious problem. And going back to the economy, yes, I think we're probably not going to be able to avoid recession.
Talking about those days where people might be able to get things done, today was very much being drafted as the day to go out and use the trains, use the postal service before it all goes awry. And of course, here we are with this Arctic blast coming down, flights being cancelled, runways being closed, trains, people being told not to use the trains, people being stuck in their cars, all of which, as you say, has an impact on an economy which is already struggling from the strikes.
Well, absolutely. And again, normally, if you have 1 month or 2 months of bad weather, or even a few weeks of bad weather. We see that repeated, through the years. Then again, you tend to be able to catch up with that a little bit later. Well, it's very unlikely this is going to happen this time because of all the other issues we know. I mean, a real decline in household disposable incomes. The fastest on record is expected to be the case for this year, and the second fastest decline on record in household disposable incomes is likely to be next year. So with tax increases and everything else. So what people will be able to do to sort of manage through this, a lot of inventions are taking place, if you like, in terms of how to do it and how to survive it. And of course, if you also have those problems in terms of being able to move around, and that's really bad. But of course, you've got issues of transporting goods. There is some extra support, supposedly, that's going to be given to ensuring that things at least get to the destination so that there are ample supplies of things that people want to have during the rail strikes. Again, it remains to be seen how effective that is.
Vicky Price, Chief Economist at the Centre for Economics and Business Research. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, 4 children are in a critical condition in 2 Birmingham hospitals after falling through ice on a lake in Solihull yesterday afternoon.
Yes, West Midlands Fire Service have now switched from a search and rescue to a recovery operation. This is all taking place at Babs Mill Park.
Yeah, terribly upsetting story. GB News West Midlands reporter Jack Carson has more for us now. Hi, Jack. So, any update on the news earlier?
Well, the only update we've had is, like you said, that this is now no longer a search and rescue operation from West Midlands Fire Service. This is now a recovery operation. There's currently no active recovery going on. They're essentially taking their time now. A dinghy has just turned up just up the road, which will be entering the lake shortly to continue this operation after there are possibly 2 children feared missing and possibly still in the lake after the incident yesterday. Police were called here at 2:36 after the incident. Witnesses saw kids playing in the lake, were screaming at them that it's not safe and to get off the lake. One of the feet of one of the children fell through the ice. Other children went on to try and rescue their friends, and then bystanders, and then when police got there, they got in as well. One police officer that jumped into the lake to try and rescue the children has now been taken to hospital and is suffering from mild hypothermia, although they are expected to make a full recovery. 4 children that were rescued from the lake were given CPR here at the scene and then had critical care continuing in the ambulance on the way, like you said, to 2 Birmingham hospitals, 2 to Birmingham Children's Hospital and 2 to Birmingham Heartlands Hospital as well. We don't currently know yet when the next update is going to come. The operation has continued overnight, and Richard Stanton, who's the West Midlands Fire and Rescue Service Area Commander, said that the specialist medical advice they'd been given, and given the age of the children, that this would no longer be a search and rescue operation. It's now essentially recovery and taking time to make sure that everything is done properly. There has been a bit of a police presence here this morning, and them talking amongst themselves, but we've had no official update as yet. One witness to the event yesterday said that there was a group of youngsters playing on the lake and their friends on the side when one of them fell in. Then they rushed from the bank to try and save them. She claims that one of the boys, an 8-year-old, has since died, but the emergency services have not confirmed any of that just yet. They are all expected and all thought to be under 12 years old. Year 5 and Year 6. One of the local primary schools has also closed for the day as well. So no further update yet, other than this is now a recovery operation and no longer a search and rescue.
Horrendous story. Jack, thank you very much for keeping us updated. We will follow this story very closely throughout the course of the day here on GB News, and our hearts just go out to all of the families concerned. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. Awful.
It is. We're looking at photographs of our kids coming in now. They're outside playing, and then this backdrop is just, I don't know what to say. It really gets me choked.
I think there will be families who, well, their whole lives have been turned upside down today, but it's just the scenario every parent can imagine, because there's 2 children or 1 child that's, perhaps being a bit reckless, and then the other children doing what anyone would instinctively do and go and try and help. But look, the advice always: stay away from frozen lakes. You don't know how thick that ice is, and it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
Good advice. OK, well, let's get more on the weather and how it's affecting travel now. Our London reporter, Alice Porter, joins us now for more. So what's the situation out there?
Good morning. Well, the Met Office has just released a new weather warning for ice in London and the southeast, and that's because temperatures dropped so low overnight that we had about 10 centimetres of snow, which for those of you who are watching can see behind me. It's extraordinary to have this in London and the southeast. Obviously great for, you know, making a snowball, but obviously not so good if you want to get around London and the southeast. In terms of how the tube network is impacted, almost all services are having disruption across the capital, apart from the Waterloo and City Line. And if you do manage to venture out onto the roads, then you're going to have to be incredibly careful, because there's huge disruption on the M25, and so much so that the AA say they've had a 25% increase on the number of callers of people who've broken down. Many people were stranded overnight, and there's been huge disruption to our airports, because it's not just the ice, it's not just the snow, there's been fog as well, and that's really impacted the visibility. And in fact, Gatwick and Stansted last night, they closed one of their runways because of issues to do with ice. They've now reopened, but that's having a knock-on effect for a lot of the airports as well, and there's a lot of disruption. And if you manage to get a train, there's also disruption across many of our rail lines. Southeastern are in fact asking people not to travel at all because there is so much disruption. I think the concern is that these low temperatures will continue for most of the week. We've got this weather warning from the Met Office that's in place until 11 o'clock tomorrow, but we can expect these low temperatures to continue throughout most of the week. So I think the important thing is, if you do have to go out today, do check before you travel, whether you're going on the roads, trains, tube. Just check to be careful. If you can stay in and keep warm, that may be a bit more preferable.
Lovely, thank you very much. Real snowy scene, and we can't stress to people enough who live outside London, this doesn't happen in the capital very often. We do get a bit overexcited when the snow kicks in. But anyway, Dave's been in touch. He sent us some photographs this morning. In fact, lots of you have been sending pictures. This is his snowy street in Hartlepool. Lovely.
That is a snowy street in Hartlepool. Yeah. And here's another one. Sophie says, this is my winter wonderland in North Yorkshire.
That's bucolic, isn't it? That's like a classic British Christmas card.
That is this year's Christmas card. Print it up. Don't bother waiting.
They've got some uplighting going on there. That's like a professional job. Mary says, this is our garden in Gloucestershire. Equally gorgeous. You can see that's taken from a bedroom window or something from above, isn't it? They're sort of in their pyjamas taking... Oh, look at this out the window.
Yeah, it's beautiful,
Love it.
Colin says, photo of Gillingham, Kent. There we go.
Lovely. And John says, I hope you're both well. Here are some pictures from Fulham in London. And as I say, very rare that we get snowy scenes in London like this. So we're a bit overexcited, aren't we, this morning?
Yeah. And
or at least our kids are.
Yeah, I'm getting live photographs coming in on WhatsApp now of my kids playing. Then they're hoping for a morning off, but get to school. Yeah, they're doing all right.
Right, stay with us. We're going to take a break. After that, we've got the really, really big, important hot potato of a subject, which is...
that is, how do you cook the perfect golden roast potatoes, the best dish?
We've got James Martin to tell us more. That's off in a moment.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me. on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
As a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I don't know how long that ad break was, but we avidly discussed potatoes for the entire break, didn't we?
The entirety of it.
We take roast potatoes and Christmas dinner extremely seriously, and luckily we are with a like-minded person as well now, because James Martin, of course, a professional when it comes to these things. Tell us your secret, because as far as we're concerned, this is the most important element in the Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's the type of potatoes. Most people just go to the supermarket, just get any random potatoes. That's your biggest problem. You need King Edwards or Red Rooster. Those are the main ones. The main ones being King Edwards, I suppose, already. But it's always they go for just a random potato, usually because they're easier to peel. It's usually the smaller ones, the more fiddly ones to peel. They're the best ones for roast potatoes. Now, when you're doing that, what you must make sure is the tray is very hot. So what I do is peel the potatoes. While I'm peeling potatoes, put the tray in the oven, usually with a little bit of dripping, some lard, some duck fat, that kind of stuff. If you're going to use things like vegetable oil, use vegetable oil or use olive oil. Don't use extra virgin olive oil because it will burn. That's that one. And then put the potatoes in cold water, bring them to the boil, cook them for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then pour them into a colander and shake them around so they break up the outer side of it. Put it into the tray and then roast them in the oven for about an hour and 15 minutes they want. Turning them every so often, a little bit of salt over the top. Now, the most important thing is, obviously, Christmas is around the corner. If you're going to do roast potatoes this Christmas, take the turkey out of the oven before the potatoes go in. The turkey must be out of the oven, covered over, leave to rest for at least about 40 minutes until it sets. About 40 minutes, and then you carve it. And then you put the potatoes in the oven. Don't put the turkey straight out of the oven onto the table. It'll fall apart.
Totally agree, because that allows the juices to rise back through the meat now.
But is it not cold by then?
No, it stays warm for hours, a big turkey. Isabel, see, I would go for a slightly longer parboil myself, James, but that's just me. Isabel has a bit of a controversial one. Drop this one.
Well, my in-laws have an Arga, so they'll do roast potatoes in the Arga for the majority, and then the last 15 minutes or so, they'll blast it in the oven. It's almost like a double-cooked roasty. And we think that is the secret to the perfect roasty. What do you think? What's the professional
you're right.
opinion?
I think. Well, both of you are not wrong. But the most important thing is make sure the oven is really hot. That's the thing. A lot of people think, because you're going to do a turkey this Christmas, and turkey, remember, will be slightly smaller than they usually are. So if you've not got one on order, get them ordered. Cover it over with a little bit of foil, something like that. That'll keep warm for at least 40 minutes, an hour, something. Particularly when we're doing it at the restaurant. They're out of the oven by 11 o'clock, so that way we can have that heat of the oven to cook everything else, the roast parsnips and everything else. You need the oven very, very hot.
Now, I noticed you dropped in the lard there, the goose fat, old school methods. Do they really work? I've got a missus who's vegetarian. So can I smuggle them past her, or will she notice?
She'll definitely notice. You can't do that. But if you are going to use, if you're going to cook one separate for vegetarians, if you are going to use an oil, vegetable oil, things like rapeseed oil, things like extra virgin olive oil are too strong, and also they'll burn. Remember, the potatoes are going to be in the oven for a good hour and 15 minutes, and things like extra virgin olive oil will just burn. So just use a normal olive oil from a supermarket, or a little bit of vegetable oil.
And you talked about fluffing your spuds. I like to fluff them and then add a bit of flour, or controversially sometimes some semolina, and it just makes that extra crispy outer layer with the fluffy inner. But you're shaking your head.
Nah, good quality UK grown potatoes. You don't need any of that. That's the Italian method. Stick to what we know best, and get the potatoes from this country. Shake them like that, and then give them another 5-6 minutes if you want to, depending on the size. But no need for any semolina, no need for any flour. Nice hot tray in the oven.
Okay.
Now, we have to end the programme soon, sadly. But we could talk about potatoes.
We could do a whole half-hour special.
The next hour. The humble spud, much underrated. You've got a book out, right, about lots of different ways to cook spuds?
Yeah, there are 5,000 different potatoes. I've even got the roast potatoes in this one there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's about 5,000 different potatoes out there, and it's just showing people a little guide of what to do with them. There's over 100 odd recipes in there, but it shows people that not all potatoes are the same. So just look out for the names in the supermarket, and you can do so much with them as well.
Our producer Charlie was just coming up with a suggestion. What was the name of the instrument you recommended I use, Charlie?
The mandolin potato. Finely
mandolins
sliced.
are great. Watch your fingers.
OK. And apparently it makes a confit potato. He's lost me now. It's getting a bit fancy, but it sounds good.
Yeah, well, the difference between a Hasselback potato and a roast potato is usually about 10 quid. So don't worry about that. Just chuck them in the oven.
Fair enough.
It's basically a jacket potato with a few slices in it, and they charge you like one would. Any especially kind of unusual twists on the spud that we should be picking up from you, James?
Well, look out for the best bacon potatoes, a potato called Maribel. It's a type of potato. Look out from the supermarket. It's the variety as well. So when you're looking at that, makes the best bacon potato. It's unbelievable. An hour and 15 minutes in the oven, no oil, no salt. The best bacon potatoes. Anya is another one. It's named after Lady Sainsbury. It's a relatively new one. It's only been out a few years. That's another one to go for. Very waxy, but particularly good for this time of year. People are going skiing and bits and pieces. If you want to recreate one of those dishes at home, that wonderful little tartiflette, which is basically sliced onions, sauteed in a pan with sliced potatoes that are cooked, and then you top it with cheese and cream and then bake it in the oven. It's a fantastic dish. Usually done with Robuchon, but you can use it for any cheese you want. But it's a wonderful little dish, tartiflette, with a little bit of bacon.
Yeah. Making me starving.
I'm actually drooling here. I'm actually wiping away the saliva, James. You've really got the juices flowing this morning, Captain. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, and have a Merry Christmas.
Pleasure.
We'll be thinking of you on Christmas morning when we roast our potatoes. That's me told. No more flour or semolina. That's the foreign way. We can't do that.
That's what you call a slap down.
Yeah, that was a slap down from James Martin. Right, we'll be back bright and early from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Of course, roast potatoes great in all this awful weather. Snow is good fuel for snowball fights. So hopefully there'll be lots of those between now and tomorrow. We'll be going and enjoying the snow. Tom Harwood back now with the briefing.
I want some spuds.
I want some spuds. A bit early, isn't it? Go on, 25 past. Have a lovely day.
See you tomorrow.
Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK's